As a medical practice owner, your patients are already using ChatGPT to solve most of their medical problems. Well, here's some guidelines you can guide them so they can be more successful in helping their plan. I saw a stat the other day that said 1 in 5 of the population is using ChatGPT to solve most of their healthcare issues. Look, AI is everywhere. We all know that. More and more patients are using AI. Heck, you might be even using AI in your day-to-day activities and how you deal with your patient populations and run your medical practice. But you know what? Those 1 in 5 are not aware that most of the time the answers that come back are wrong. Since AI has exploded in healthcare, it's definitely tempted to kind of use it as a free 24/7 doctor, and your patients are definitely using it consistently. AI is definitely going to transform healthcare and medicine. I talk about this all the time on this channel. At my digital health company, SensorMed, we're actually using AI consistently with helping patients more effectively guide them in their healthcare journey. But I'm also using it in my day-to-day to help me navigate brainstorming activities and thinking through how best to use it more effectively. I think medical practice owners really need to kind of help patients use it more effectively and wisely. Not just willy-nilly or blindly. The reason why I say that is because let's talk about how to actually use AI for healthcare data. This is so important. And I think there's some guidelines on how we can think through this. I'll talk a little bit about what it is, how we can use it, why prompting matters, because it's really about the context. Before we begin, you got to think about the secrets to transform your medical practice is really understanding how to use these ChatGPT AI tools more effectively. So I'm going to talk about 3 areas. First, I'm going to talk about patients going to use it anyway, but help them use it cautiously. Second, I'm going to walk you through the do's and don'ts of how patients can use it safely. And finally, I'm going to talk about a community that we have built that can help you find like-minded medical practices that are doing the same thing. My name is Theo Harvey, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. Went from low employee to CEO that runs a multi-million-dollar healthcare company from his home. I raised over $1 million from VCs and investors and venture capitalists across the country. I work with large organizations like Cisco Systems, AT&T, the Charles Barkley Organization, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Google. My mission is to help you prepare for the new normal in healthcare before it's too late. So let's talk a little bit about why your patients are using ChatGPT and why you need to guide them to use it more cautiously. AI is great, but I definitely think there are caveats. We're going to talk about some of the key points of how to use it shortly, but let's talk about like some of the benefits and how to think through it. There's a quote by President Ronald Reagan: "Trust but verify." That's correct. AI is great. Look, it is fairly accurate according to the Journal of Medical Internet Research in 2023. Recent case studies, they were able to find several things. First, that was 72% overall accuracy was great. 77% for final diagnosis was accurate and great. 68% for clinical management, and 60% for differential diagnosis, basically determine what is the difference between this presenting symptom and something else and what it could be the underlying cause of it was great. These are all great opportunities, but I think just because something is 60% effective, there's still about 40% of it not being effective, and that's wide margin. I'd like to tell a story I read from Robin Berzin, who runs the RBMD Off Script email, and she wrote about one of her longtime patients, who showed up to a Zoom visit with a full AI generated treatment plan. That's right, the patient came prepared. The patient had uploaded their labs and health goals and used ChatGPT for alternative statins. So basically they used that for heart conditions. The patient got exactly what they asked for: 2 second-line drugs, plus plan for nutrition, supplements, exercise, much of which they were already doing together. On paper, the answer was technically correct, but it missed some key points. According to Robin, she mentioned that it didn't address that he was resistant to statins in the first place, or which alternative might actually move the needle on his cholesterol based on his history and inflammation markers and family risk. Look, just because ChatGPT gives you an answer, it doesn't mean it's the correct one, and it doesn't know your full history. So definitely encourage your patients, move toward the innovation, but you definitely want to guide them to better success. So I like to say that again. You gotta encourage your patients toward innovation, like using AI, but you need to be a guide so they understand all the parameters and context so they can be successful and not move into harm, especially when it comes to healthcare. Next, we're going to talk about how to use it. And this is going to be a lengthy section because it's going to really get into the do's and the don'ts. But first, I like to give you some high-level guidelines, when you're advising your patients on using AI or ChatGPT type functions. First, inputs absolutely matter. Definitely without medical training, there's a lot of key details that can be missed when it comes to patient populations. Just like that story, you need to understand family history, subtle lab markers, allergies, medications. There's a lot of things that can be missed in context because you're putting together care plans that are surface level. Having someone that understands that at a deeper level, like your doctor, is so important. So that's something that you can educate your patients on. The inputs matter. They can't just go to ChatGPT and put in random information. Secondly, hallucinations do happen. So we talked about this on this channel before. ChatGPT and other large language models, or LLMs, occasionally what they call hallucinate. They create fake studies, citations, treatment protocols. I've done this on this channel before, but actually go in there, and if it creates something that doesn't make sense, ask ChatGPT evaluate what it just said. And a lot of times you'll find out it says, oh, that information is inaccurate, or I may exaggerate something. ChatGPT is built with neural pathways like human beings, so it can come up with connections that may not make sense on the surface. Also, it's something that it can't really explain until you really have it think about what it thought about. So I'll say that again. You help ChatGPT think about what it's responding to so that it can answer correctly. You don't want to hallucinate and make up things, especially when it comes to your patient's health. Third, context is everything. Even great answers can be wrong if they don't apply to your body, history, lifestyle, etc. AI just can't understand the underlying issues and recognize all that's going on with you. Medicine itself can't recognize that human beings are unique and different. It's not just your genes, but your environment, how you live. A lot of factors go into that, right? Having another human being kind of understand that context, because they are a human being, can give pause to certain things that may be more experimental, may not be needed. And so that's super important. Nuance still needs humans. Let me say that again. Nuance still needs humans. Next, privacy is so important, especially when it comes to healthcare. And when you deal with these off-the-shelf large language models built by OpenAI, Google, Facebook, that data is open now, right, to a business. And so that means your protected health information, or PHI, has to be protected. And so that's so key, because you put in information into this computer and it spits out something fairly reasonable, doesn't mean your information is not going to get out there. So be careful and make sure your patients are aware that whatever they put in there can get exposed and come back later for them. And then last but not least, just because something is fast doesn't mean it's effective. Let me say that again. Just because something is fast does not mean it's an expert. AI is quick on responding. If you ever try to put ChatGPT and looking for an answer, it gives you that surety. We talked about on this channel before about AI hallucinations or AI delusions, where human beings go into the ChatGPT and come out with delusions of grandeur because ChatGPT is responding quickly and also affirming them, right? Giving them positive responses. So they just get deeper and deeper into psychosis. And so it's super important to realize that just because it's saying something quick doesn't mean it's an expert at it. You need to understand that, just because a symptom combo means watch and wait or go to the ER now, you just don't know what that means exactly for your space, right? And so you have to be careful, and having a human being walk patients through that is so important. That's kind of like the high level. Well, let's talk about some of the do's, for AI. You can absolutely use it to understand lab results better. For instance, I know my business partner, he's actually used it to kind of understand some of his heart lab results and understand what they mean and help you decode all these different numbers and flags and what they should or should not be, what the baselines are. And that helps them, really helps to kind of just understand things like that. It can help you triage sudden symptoms, right? Wondering if that chest rash needs urgent care, or if your toddler's fever, can it wait till Wednesday? You just don't know. So just getting a sense of how severe on the scale of this issue. Also can help you prep for appointments. So you have a doctor appointment, right? There's a lot of stuff. We talked about the context that's needed in making a better physician diagnoses, right? So making sure the patients understand that they can put understanding of lists, the symptoms clearly, prepare smart questions they can ask you so that when they're confronted with the patient, then they can ask correct questions and you can give powerful answers that they can apply today. It can also help your patients organize supplement routine, right? There's a lot of supplements. Obviously, we're in the wellness world, and so people are taking tons of supplements. So, really kind of parsing that out so they can have a great routine of how to deliver that. And then also solve random low-level issues, right? Say you hurt your nail, help to kind of figure out how your kid may have got stuck with glue to a doorknob or something to that effect. ChatGPT can help you navigate that process and get them out some home remedies that you may not have found readily with Google. But I have a bonus for you as a medical professional. I think there is a tool that you can use. We talked on this channel, of course, about AI scribes that allow you to record charting as you're reading out loud so that you have to chart manually, and AI is kind of recording in the background. There's a powerful new tool called Open Evidence. Open Evidence is a free app that you can download with a ChatGPT-like interface, but they have guardrails and cite responses to the New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, and other reputable medical journals. So now it's kind of like a reference guide that you can pull up at a drop of a hat. And this is going gangbusters. About half the doctors in the US alone are using Open Evidence to help them navigate the process of how to deal with new symptoms, and also seeing what new journals are out there that can help their patients. Again, AI is powerful. You just have to know how to use it, not just for your patients, but also for yourself in delivering better care to your patients. The don'ts, you don't want to diagnose complex health conditions. You don't prescribe meds or supplements. So if the patients come and say, ChatGPT told me to buy this supplement, you say, hold up, let's discuss that. You don't want to have source natural remedies, say, hey, instead of taking this medication that's off the shelf, that's reputable, that has studies around it, no, you need to drink this tea. There's been stories of people who drink dandelion tea that stop a UTI. Also, you want to just not use it for being a therapist. So your patients may be using it to say, well, ChatGPT said have family issues and dad issues that go back all these years. That's great. But look, they're not human. Yes, they have some understanding of some basic knowledge from a psychology standpoint, but really understand the nuance of what that is, your family history, having, data. And ChatGPT is also not giving other signals, right? You're just typing information into a box. A human being who's a therapist is actually looking at the patient, understanding, how did their pace quicken, temperature rise a little bit? Did they sit up a little bit when they talked about their dad? Did they slump back a little bit? Talked about their mom, looking at body motion, looking at inflections when they speak and communicate. Those are all powerful things that can kind of indicate what's going on with the patient beyond just words, right? And so that's super important. You need to have a physical therapist that can listen, hear, and has a human response. And also, if you're uploading health information in the ChatGPT, that's just a no-no. Quote from Steve Jobs said, technology is nothing. What's important is that you have faith in people. Have faith in people, and that's what you educate your patients on. So guide your patients in the use of these tools more correctly, and I guarantee they will trust you. Last but not least, we're going to talk about how you can think about a community of like-minded people that want to help their patients, but that want to use AI more powerfully in healthcare. It's a lot. There's a lot of things you need to help on to understand this. And I get this, technology is moving super fast, but I believe a community can help with understanding and guiding you in the paths of best practices to deal with the fast moving technology coming at you. The story of geese who migrate, they fly in a V formation that allows each bird to take advantage of their air currents created by the one in front. This teamwork actually helps them speed up. The formation reduces resistance, allowing the flock to fly 71% farther than each bird flew alone. The leadership lesson here is that when the lead goose tires, another takes its place. Everyone shares the effort so the group can keep moving forward efficiently. The point of the story is working together will multiply speed and endurance in the face of headwinds. Again, working together will multiply speed and endurance in the face of headwinds. Having a group of like-minded individuals to help you move fast through this process of learning these technologies, best practices come up, pitfalls to avoid. You're learning so much, and it's because it's in a group setting, you're getting more information faster, and it becomes more like a hive mind. So definitely look through that. One simple way you can kind of do that is finding a like-minded individuals is, join a masterclass. In fact, we're offering a free masterclass on how to use these tools to kind of grow revenue for your practice and understand all the ways and things you can do to be successful in this new era of healthcare. Ultimately, after this masterclass, the goal will be to have you get the tools and resources you need to increase the value of medical practice and leveraging a community of others that are striving to do the same thing. So if you want to learn more, go sign up below at practicevaluecreator.ai/masterclass. We talked all the things that kind of help you be successful if your patient's bombarding you with information about what Dr. ChatGPT told you. So we talked about look, you can guide them. They're going to use it anyway, but guide them to use it cautiously. Then we talked about all the do's and don'ts of using it in your practice. We talked about the high level thoughts around context, privacy, understanding what it's good at and what it's not good at, making sure you understand it and bring that to bear when you communicate to your patients and your populations. And then finally, you want to learn from a community of like-minded individuals so you can be successful as well. So as you think about this, what are your big concerns with your patients using AI today?